I was casually scrolling through my daily Instagram feed, and I occasionally like to see what fights are being made in the UFC, and I also like to look at memes. One of the memes that caught my eye was this one. It's a picture that shows what seems to be a Google screenshot of a German serial killer that was called Amon Gus. Now, if you don't see the significance, or if you don't see the funny and why this is even remotely comical, it's because the guy's name is literally Amon Gus, and it sounds just like the video game called Amon Gus. You can make a ton of connections here. Amon Gus, the video game, is pretty much about murdering other players, while the supposed German serial killer, Amon Gus, also murders people. Like in the video game Amon Gus I just talked about. I'm gonna stop talking. You understand why this is funny. Moving on. Now, at first, I couldn't believe it. Amon Gus was a real guy that unfortunately murdered people, but when looking at the guy's name in present time, it's a pretty funny name, it's a pretty funny piece of history to have, especially when he's a serial killer. With all that said, I had to know if this was even true. I did a quick Google search for a German serial killer called Amon Gus, and there was nothing. I eventually reverse image searched the Amon Gus meme, and I eventually found the mugshot that was used in the meme I'm talking about. Unfortunately, who I and many other people thought to be Amon Gus was actually a German serial killer called Volker Eckert. That's a German last name. I'm American. Eckert. I don't know how to say his last name.
A dumb Amerikaner.
Anyway, Volker is in fact a real person. He was a real serial killer, but I'm not even going to dive into the things he did because I don't think anyone really cares. But he is in no way affiliated with the name Amon Gus. Why is his picture in this meme? I have no idea. But what I do know is that there's another meme with the supposed Amon Gus. This version of the meme is of a German author who was apparently called Amon Gus. And after a couple Google searches and reverse image searching, I was lied to once again. This guy is in fact not Amon Gus. This is Karl May. He used to write some pretty famous books and he had a cool mustache, you know, famous author back in the day. He was also Hitler's favorite author. Anyway, after being lied to, I had the question of, is there a person really named Amon Gus in the world? I first searched on Facebook because some of the people with the worst names exist on Facebook, but I couldn't find any legitimate person named Amon Gus. My next thought was to check websites for people who have died, and I made sure to check out the website that literally tracks graves in every part of the world, every country. After looking up Amon Gus, no one has ever died with that name before, which leads me to believe no one in the history of humanity has ever been named Amon Gus. But there are people with similar sounding names. For example, there was Amon Goeth. It's kinda like saying Among Us, but with a bad lisp. Anyway, this Amon Goeth person was a Nazi, so while his name is almost the stuff of legends, this guy sucks. While the world may never see a living, breathing Amon Gus, there's still a chance that one day this person will be born. The likelihood of someone being named Amon Gus isn't completely far-fetched either. There are currently 1,710 people in the world that have the last name Gus, and for every 33,226 baby boys that are born into the world each year, one of them has the first name Amon. If you are still watching, you probably aren't subscribed, and while that's completely fine, it does make me happy when people like you support the channel. Thank you for watching, check out my past and future content, and give me money on my Patreon in the description. Only 2,000 subscribers, but I love. Only 2,000 subscribers, but I love.